Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another Inside Lowell podcast. I am your host, Teddy Panos, coming to you from the WellPoint Studios here in downtown Lowell. And today, we're going to be offering you an inside view of an upcoming event, a great annual event that's been taking place since 2015 here in the Mill City, and it's presented by our friends at UMass Lowell, and through the years, it's brought some really impressive business leaders to our community and made them accessible to folks, just as they are doing again this year. It's the UMass Lowell Women's Leadership Conference. It is coming up on June 12th, which I believe, don't kill me if I'm wrong, but my guest will correct me, a week from Thursday. We're recording this on Tuesday, June 3rd, but I'm very excited to bring in my guest on the Zoom line for today's Inside View podcast. She is a professor at the UMass Lowell Manning School of Business. Elizabeth Altman is joining us. She is also the co-chair of this event and has been for all but 1 year of its inception. So Liz, thank you for joining us here on the Inside View, and I'm looking forward to learning a little bit more about this awesome annual event.
Great. Thanks so much, Teddy. Always a pleasure to talk with you.
Well, I'm glad you feel that way. Not everybody feels that way, but you seem to, or at least you fake it very well. But
no, it's always fun.
So
one of my favorite topics, so it's a pretty easy interview.
This is an awesome event, and I was looking at your lineup this year, and it's always an impressive lineup. You may have outdone yourselves this year, but let's talk a little bit about your involvement as the co-chair. You had just started at the university in 2015, so you didn't get to be a chair that year, but you were still involved, right? They put you right to work, like what, 6 months in or even less?
6 weeks.
6 weeks.
So it was an open call. Basically, our then chancellor, Jackie Maloney, was new in her role and remembered a conference she had been to many years earlier. And she said, I think it would be great if we had a conference that really brought people together and, showed thought leadership and showed our ability to convene people around women's leadership. And so she suggested we have this conference. They had a very big meeting. A lot of people came. I was asked to be on the steering committee. We all thought that we could do a conference maybe the following fall. Jackie showed her leadership and said, no, let's do it in June. And thus our June conference was born. And that June 2016, we did the first one. And this one in 2 weeks will be our 8th.
Okay. And how big was it the first year? Because I'm looking at your lineup this year. You got a morning session, you got an afternoon session. There are multiple sessions in the morning and the afternoon, and then this huge keynote conversation that I want to talk about. But was it similarly large and grandiose when you started? Did you shoot for the stars right away?
We kind of did, yes. So we went back and forth, and there was some discussion of whether it should be 2 days, whether it should have a big dinner, and we landed on this notion of 1 day. I think we had 2 keynotes that year. I know we've had 2 ever since, and we decided we wanted to make it easy for people to attend and get to all the content. So yes, we start relatively early and we end early because we have our now famous networking reception, because we think it's always fun where people kind of continue the conversations they started all day at our networking reception. So the layout, each year we get the steering committee together and we say, should we change something or should we make it different? And we've changed the number of tracks. We changed the location. Last year, we moved to the Tsongas Center. So, we innovate and we actually take into account the feedback we get because every year we do a survey. And so based on the survey, we've changed a number of things of how things work and how long breaks are and things like that. But generally, the layout has been the same and it works really well because it's this great blend of some keynotes that we can discuss and then smaller concurrent sessions, often workshops, very interactive. We really encourage our speakers to give takeaways, actions that people can take home. Often our speakers have written books or put together One year we had playing cards. So, tools that people can bring back home into their work.
And to kind of drive that home, you call it a keynote conversation, not a keynote speech. And I want to get to that in a quick second. But who's the audience? Who has been attending this? Is it strictly business leaders, high up execs? Is it people in middle management? Is it people hoping to get to management, students? Who's coming to this every year?
It's really interesting. First of all, it's all of the above is the quickest answer. I was amazed. So I'm a business school professor. I used to be in corporations. And so when I first came into the group and I heard women's leadership, I just assumed we would have business leaders and focus on business leaders. But I was quickly reminded by many of my colleagues that we're a university. We have higher ed leaders, we have healthcare leaders, we have people in the performing arts, we have if you look at our list of majors, all of those parts of our university have leaders and leaders coming out of them. So we specifically tried to keep the conference beyond business. So clearly business leaders, but it's very much about leaders in all walks of life. I think it was last year we had a U.S. Air Force general as one of our keynotes. She was unbelievable. And I've learned from my research the extent to which leaders can learn from leaders in other contexts. So we have leaders from across the board, and that means our attendees are also from across the board. So we have people from hospitals, we have people from corporations, we have a big tech contingent that comes in, and we can talk a little about our sponsors. I hope we will.
Yes.
But if you look, we have banks, we have a hospital, we have tech companies, and so that shows you the range. And in terms of seniority, we have this year we're bringing students in to join us, so we'll have some contingent of students attending. We always have a few right out of college people who are newly starting in the workforce, and all the way up through we normally have people in their 60s and 70s who maybe have transitioned from a full-time career and they're doing a bit of a portfolio, or they're board members. Often people are in some sort of a transition. They're thinking about leaving a role, or they have left a role. We have entrepreneurs. So it's a pretty wide range of people coming. And we always have a pretty good mix, if you look at our survey, of people who have been for years and people who have never been before.
I love it. And this year, we'll give people the warning right now that even though you're holding it at the Tsongas Center, space is quickly filling up. This may be your biggest one yet. So anybody watching this, pay attention. As a matter of fact, go to the website right now. Go to UMass Lowell Women's Leadership and register and sign up. We'll give you all that information. But fitting to me, Elizabeth, that this is being hosted by UMass Lowell, because you mentioned Chancellor Maloney and now Chancellor Chen, and UMass Lowell has a pretty good history of women's leadership, recent history. You just hired your first female athletic director. She's playing a role in this as well. And if I'm not mistaken, UMass Lowell is ranked the #1 education institution for women's leadership, and I think number 11 overall. Is that, am I being accurate here?
I'm not sure, because we have different rankings, but if it sounds good, so if you say so, I believe it. But I'd have to look it up, because I don't actually know.
All right. I vaguely remember it was part of a story that we published on InsideLowell.com. So again, folks want to read more about it, InsideLowell.com is the web address, and you can learn an awful lot about the keynote speaker, which I'm going to turn our attention to right now. Right. The keynote conversation will be moderated by the aforementioned Lynn Coots, first female athletic director at UMass Lowell, just hired last summer, if I remember correctly. And fitting that she's an athletic director, because your keynote conversation involves a very high-ranking executive with the Boston Red Sox, right?
I need to give a bit of an announcement on that. So let's talk about the panel, and then we'll talk about we have essentially 3 keynotes. We have 2 big keynote sessions, And then we have a featured speaker who we've recently confirmed in the middle of the day.
Ooh, okay.
So I can walk through them. So the morning we have this kind of all-star panel called Leading in Tough Times, a candid conversation with C-suite leaders, as you mentioned. And we have our new athletic, or maybe not so new anymore, but Lynn, our athletic director, and Chancellor Julie Chen will be there. We have Lauren Naussenberger, who is the Executive Vice President and Chief Innovation Officer from SAIC. And we have Kemi Olugemo, who's Chief Medical Officer at 𝐿. And we have Jennifer Santos, Vice President and Chief Strategy Officer at Draper. So it's an amazing group of women who, and an amazing group of leaders who, and again, consistent with what I said before, they operate in, manage, run, lead all kinds of organizations. And so I think it's going to be super interesting to see what challenges they have in common and where there are differences. And so I think this notion of what it takes to lead in tough times across industries and across organizations should be fantastic.
Yeah, I noticed you mentioned SAIC and Draper, and instantly my mind went to the Link project. These are two of
Correct.
the links in that
That's
huge economic and educational development chain for you folks. How much have these new partnerships, and I know there's one with the home base program and a few others where the names and titles are escaping, but how much has this increased the profile of UMass Lowell and specifically of the Manning School of Business to get, to eventually get up there with some of the great business institutions, educational institutions we have in Massachusetts and around the country for that matter?
Yes, it's fantastic. So I've spoken with our chancellor about it and with Ann Maglia and others at the university who are really kind of leading the efforts around this. The university is building these partnerships, and the way I think about it is, and I believe it's consistent with our administration, is they're really relationships. And I think this is a perfect example where beyond what you may read about and the first level, of course, all the investment, all the work that's going on, we get to know people and people get to know us. And so they see opportunities to participate with us. We see opportunities to work with them. And so absolutely, you'll see it's not a coincidence that some of our top leaders are also some of our partners at Link, because we're working with them and we think they're great and they're interested in contributing in many ways to the life of our campus and what we offer to the community. And as I look at, this conference is geared towards people both within UMass Lowell and very much outside of UMass Lowell, again, as a kind of convening function to bring people together and bring people in. And so it's a great opportunity for us to work with these partners in this way.
We're chatting with Elizabeth Altman, professor at the Manning School of Business at the University of Massachusetts Lowell, and we're talking about the annual UMass Lowell Women's Leadership Conference. Hard to talk business, hard to talk anything nowadays in 2025, Elizabeth, without talking about AI, artificial intelligence, and that's actually the theme, the talking point of one of the sessions you have, right?
Yeah, so I'm just thrilled. One of my colleagues, Alyssa Fari, is based out of Milan. She's at Capgemini, and she and her co-author, Gabriele Rossani, recently published a book called, I have it sitting right here, Generative AI for Managers, to make sure it's correct, which is an amazing guidebook published by Harvard Business Review Publishing. And it's been very well received. I actually was on a Zoom call with Alyssa this morning. She's in Norway. She was in London. She was recently in Mumbai. She's going all over the world because people are so interested not only in the topic of generative AI, but how Alyssa and Gabriella have done this research around how managers use generative AI. And so she's going to present Gabriele and her framework for thinking about this as part of the lunch well, actually just before lunch. So as a featured speaker. And I can tell you again, I work with her and I know they helped me with one of my classes this last semester and the students loved them. And so anyway, she's fantastic and she's going to be in New York City the 2 days before. And I convinced her to take the train from New York up so that she can speak with us. We have her for about an hour and a half. So she's coming up to give this speech, and I think it's going to be fantastic.
That's awesome. This is a personal question from me because I'm hearing a lot from both angles. Is AI something I should fear or something I should celebrate?
I mean, I guess I would start with celebration with a dose of fear. Okay. So I think it's an amazing tool, and the hype is out of control, of course, but yes, I think it's going to change how most of us do work. The way other tools in the past have changed how we do work. And so I think that's great. And figuring out how to use it. Alyssa, Gabrielle talk about changing or using it both as a productivity assistant, but also as a thought partner, as a co-thinker. And so I've been working with my students on how to use generative AI to help push your thinking, right? So ask it to ask you questions and have it help you figure out, what you might be missing and what other ways you can think about the same problem, as opposed to just, can you do this for me? But basically, I'm doing this. Can you help me do it? Or what should I be doing differently? And I think the way they think, and I've learned a lot from working with her. And so I think that's something that she'll talk about at the conference. And my guess is people, when we were talking about this morning, I said to her, look, you're going to have people in the room probably who have never used AI, which is totally fine. And then you're going to have people who are engineers who are, maybe building these systems. And so there's a huge range. And I think it's fair to say everybody will learn something.
Yeah, that's actually a fascinating approach. Don't just ask AI questions and look for answers. Have it ask you questions as well.
Oh, 100%.
Love it. There's a sports component to this as well. I noticed you've got yes. Executives from the PWHL, the Professional Women's Hockey League team, which plays its games Definitely. Or has played its games at the Tsongas Center. Professional women's soccer, which I guess is coming in the coming year or so out in the Boston area. They've been in the news or whatnot. But sports, in many ways, the most recent frontier for female executives, isn't it? It took forever to get into them. Now, I'm watching, these folks. I'm watching NBA games and seeing assistant coaches. They're in the front offices. It took a while, but they're finally there as well, right?
Yes. Yes. So we were thrilled to be able to announce that we were going to have Amy Warriors. Unfortunately, due to a family emergency, she's not going to be able to join us. Kind of late breaking news. And of course, we send our best to her and her family, and we hope we'll have her at another time. We are thrilled and very fortunate that 𝐂𝐥𝐲𝐻𝐳 𝐚, who's Chief Revenue Officer at NESN, is going to join us. And she's a real dynamo in the sports media industry. She brings a wealth of insights, energy, leadership experience. So we're honored that she's going to be able to join us, and I think she's going to be inspiring and energizing. I've been looking at some of her work, and she's amazing. So I don't know if the website, it's really late breaking news, so I'm not sure if the website is up to date yet, but I can tell you that 𝐂𝐥𝐲𝐻𝐳 𝐚 will be our afternoon speaker.
Well, that's a heck of a pinch hitter you're putting in for the Red Sox executive.
Totally.
Pardon the
No, right. And NESN is amazing. So, I think we've been extremely fortunate, and the Red Sox have been great partners in helping us even with our original speaker and then helping us get through this. So we're very grateful.
All right. Gonna give, before we say goodbye, I'm gonna give you a chance to give the website so people can see the complete list. If we run it all down, people will never remember. So we'll give the website, but we've talked about a couple of the sessions. How about you personally? Which session is the can't miss session for you? I figure as co-chair, you're going to have to bounce around a lot, but is there one where you might just plant yourself for a long time or the entire session if you can?
Well, so we also always have this trade-off by having these concurrent sessions, and people get very mad at us because they want to go to all of them. We've thought about doubling up. We've thought about recording them. We don't have a great solution because one of the highlights and one of the things I think that's important about our conference, even vis-a-vis some other conferences, is that people have the opportunities to be in these smaller groups. So I don't know. I mean, I think that I'm most excited. I don't know. I think I've said this before. Maybe it's like your children. You kind of can't pick one. It's like my students. I try not to pick. But I think it's a great lineup. As I said, I mean, I'm biased because Alyssa is my colleague and friend and is coming in. I think she just brings a different way to look at generative AI that we don't usually hear. So I think that's going to be really exciting. I think the leadership panel in the morning, we've never done a panel of this scale and size as a keynote. Again, we debated it a little behind the scenes, and we just decided these are just amazing people, and seeing them together and seeing them in conversation, I think is going to be fantastic. And as I said, as of, I think this morning or this weekend, recognizing that 𝐿𝐴 Schulman will be there in the afternoon is going to be amazing. So our big sessions are definitely great. And yes, if you look at the agenda, the concurrent sessions, a lot of them could have been keynotes. We spend time figuring out how do we do this? And we've been incredibly fortunate. I'll say again, I'm thankful to our sponsors, and I'd love to quickly run down that list. But I'm also incredibly grateful to our speakers who are super busy and yet come and spend the day with us in Lowell. It's amazing, truly.
All right, we
couldn't do it without them.
Yeah, we'll get to the sponsors as well. Personal question for you is actually, I'm asking a lot of personal questions of you, aren't I? But you did a good job of avoiding naming a teacher's pet. But what does this mean for you personally to be working for a university that puts on a women's leadership conference of this magnitude, and to be a part of the organizing? And you haven't worked for small entities. You worked for Sony. You worked for Motorola as an executive. You've been a high-end executive in global companies. So what does it mean for you to see so many women leaders under kind of one roof and sharing their stories for other aspiring leaders?
It's amazing. It's definitely one of my favorite days of the year. I mean, I'll tell you, when General 𝐿𝐴𝐿𝐳𝐚𝐞𝐭𝐡 was here as a keynote speaker, I mean, we tell our keynote speakers that they're committing to us for the time of their session. And it'd be great if they could show up maybe 15 minutes, a half hours before, and if they could stay like 15 minutes after if people have questions. But otherwise, we wouldn't expect like General 𝐿𝐴𝐿𝐳𝐚𝐞𝐭𝐡 to spend all day. And she came and she gave the keynote. I don't remember if it was morning or afternoon, but I remember just looking around the conference and she was there. And then I kind of looked around again and she was having lunch with a whole group of women kind of sitting outside. And then, I looked again and she was sitting at another table chatting with people. And I thought, well, that's interesting, and so I went, because we had said, look, there's a side room. If you have work to do or calls to do, we can arrange whatever you need. And she just kept saying, no, this is amazing. I love talking to people. This is such a great group. And to me, that really epitomized what the day is about, right? So the fact that everybody is there, everybody's interested in talking with each other and learning from each other, going to the sessions, of course. So for me, it really is a huge honor to be able to be one of the co-chairs of this event. And yes, our university with Chancellor Chen, the women in our administration, the university represents the best of women's leadership in many ways. And so I think it's completely consistent that we host this event, and it's a lot of fun. And over the years, we've brought just amazing speakers. And so, and it's a little bit of mutual admiration society, right? So the attendees are thrilled to meet the speakers and love the speakers. And the speakers say, like, the energy in the room is so amazing that they love speaking at this event, because you don't often get to speak in front of this type of a room, basically.
I bet. How about your students? What has this meant to your students through the years? It's interesting to me. Unfortunately, it's happening after the academic year.
Right.
You know, if this were during the actual second semester there, the spring semester, you might need a bigger boat than the Tsongas Center to continue.
It actually kind of solves some problems that it's not while all our students are here. So there used to be a student women's leadership conference, and it was very clear the difference, right? So there was a student conference, there was kind of an adult conference, for lack of a better term. I don't know the history of it, but for whatever reason, that conference doesn't exist anymore. So this year, we have deliberately put in place a program where we're matching students with some sponsors, and we're doing some programming specifically for students. So I think and it's mostly students who have been student leaders, who are involved in clubs, who have shown interest, and kind of, for lack of a better term, kind of earned the right to come to this conference. Anyone can sign up, of course, but they've been invited to participate in various ways. So I think that's great. I have a doctoral student who I work with. She'll be presenting, showing some of her work there. We have I have every year some students, some alums will come up to me who I haven't seen in a number of years, who are some of my former students who are kind of in the community and come. So I do think it's great, not only for students, but for students to learn about it while they're here. And then when they graduate and they're in various roles, they come, they bring their colleagues. So it's really an ongoing, we've worked to build a community over the years. We now have a LinkedIn community. We've tried to do it digitally. There's some of that, but frankly, it's just an annual gathering that's fantastic, in person, together, and people love being together.
Yeah, I'm sure. I know during COVID you had to do what you had to do, but the in-person stuff is just so much more impactful. Right. I feel. You mentioned sponsors. You don't put something on of this magnitude without some folks stepping up to make it feasible. Please take a moment, Elizabeth, to thank the sponsors who've helped you and everybody at the university present this.
Absolutely, we couldn't do it without them. So at the chancellor's level, we have Draper. We have UKG, and we have the Zuckerberg Women's Initiative for UMass Women's Leadership, which is across the UMass system. At the premier level, we have Enterprise Mobility, which is the parent of Enterprise Rent-A-Car, Tesco Associates. At the select level, we have Eastern Salt Company, Enterprise Bank, Jeanne d'Arc Credit Union, Impact Performance Group, the Manning School of Business, and NetScout. And at the supporter level, we have Tufts Medicine, Lowell General Hospital. And at the friend level, we have Meeting You Where You Are At, which is a podcast. And again, each year we end up with this diverse group of sponsors. It keeps growing, and we really appreciate everything they all do. And I know that there are a few others in the works. We always have some last minute gifts and friends and people who come in. So looking forward to seeing all of them.
Awesome. And I know.
And I'll just mention also that when we first started, the sponsors helped us financially, but that was really the primary way. And now many, if not all, of the sponsors send people, and some do gifts in kind as well. But really the fact, and some again have speakers. And so the fact that we interact with our sponsors in various ways, and they've really become integral parts of the community, I think is also fantastic and comes through in the day when you're there.
Yeah. And was not lost on me that among those sponsors that you listed, many are also women-led businesses. All right, you got me sold. First of all, am I invited? Are guys invited?
Sure.
Am I invited? I can 100% register. Okay, great. So,
yes, I hope to see you there.
I may crash. I have to talk to your AI people because I've got some ideas here at InsideLowell, but I need an expert to kind of help me hammer it home. But anyway, how do folks register? How can I sign up to attend? Sure. Where do I go?
So if you go to uml.edu/WLC, Women's Leadership Conference, that will get you there. If you forget that, you can just Google UMass Lowell Women's Leadership Conference. That will get you there. If you can't find it, you can always send me a note. I'll send you there. But I think you should be able to find it. And as I said, so far registrations are great. And so we're hoping it's going to be bigger than ever. And I think that's probably fair to say. I'm not sure if we're going to need to shut it off at some point. With ICC, we used to have to shut it off at some point. We'll have to figure that out. But so if people are interested, I would highly recommend registering, because it's both my best and worst nightmare to have to turn people away. So I don't want to have to do that.
Okay.
So, but if people register and then they're registered, then they're good. No problem.
What's the cost to attend?
I knew you were going to ask me that, and I forgot to double check. I'm actually not going to say, because it's
on the website.
We've kept it. It's on the website, and we've tried to keep it quite accessible. We've looked at all the other. We every year we benchmark all the other leadership and women's leadership conferences around, and we have all of our costs and the millions of networking breaks and lunches. So there's a cost associated with it, but I think it's quite reasonable still.
All right.
And I'd also say that if people are coming, they should definitely plan to stay through the networking reception, or at least to the start of it. It's an integral part of the whole experience. And I think people who have been will say the same thing, that it kind of caps off a day of conversation, and we just continue those conversations into the reception.
All righty. I'm sold. Thursday, June 12th starts. What time in the morning? It's early. It's like 8:30 if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it's something I would again say. If you go to the website and you hit agenda, I'm 100% certain it's there, because I looked at it this morning. So it'll be there, and whatever time it says, one should be there.
All right.
To get a good seat.
uml.edu/WLC. You're not even making me spell out Women's Leadership Conference. I just get the three letters. Elizabeth Altman, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here on the Inside View and to talk about this great event. And thanks for helping it put together. And please thank everybody over there at the university. This is a very high prestige event here that I just have a hunch is going to just keep growing and garnering more and more national headlines, because these guests you're bringing in are amazing.
Great. Well, thank you, as always, for having me and for supporting our work. We really appreciate all your efforts. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. That's Elizabeth Altman from the University of Massachusetts Lowell. Again, she is a professor at the Manning School of Business and a co-chair of the Women's Leadership Conference. Check it out on June 12th. I'm going to check my schedule right now and go register myself before I get shut out. Hopefully, we will see you there. That does it for this edition of the Inside View. Till next time, stay safe, and we'll catch you on the other side.